you back. I'm gonna show you what I'm made of. I can see you. Your brown skin shining in the sun.
30,000 kilowatts of power. Broadcasting almost across the valley. AM 1620, the Eagle Radio Network.
Welcome you to the Saturday Morning CEO and Economan Radio Show. I'm Dewey, the Economan.
And I'm Dennis, the Saturday Morning CEO.
For many of you tuning in for the very first time, our show will help you understand the economy, in which you live and learn, and why the economy matters. Our show goes just beyond the breaking news headlines with the day's first look at the highlights in the economy and how you can create growth for your personal business and a balance of personal life. We bring the perfect blend of intelligent information, humor, and personality to the Saturday Morning Radio Show. We have a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about how businesses are structured, and we also are going to be talking about the Federal Reserve and why money matters. And we have a special guest this morning. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right. We're going to have our special guest come in a little bit later. And first thing we're going to talk about is what most people wonder what to do when they get a business started. How do I set it up? What's the entity? So there's several types of entity that you can use, that you can set up your company at. But a corporation is usually what people think they need to have. And they'll get advice from Uncle Joe, who's never run a business before. And they'll get advice from all kinds of other people. But let me kind of dispel any of the myths about different entities. First one I want to talk about is partnership. Partnership is a very common one, but it's one that causes divorce and breakup of friendships and all kinds of things.
Well, that's not a business I want to go into.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up first because it's not one I usually recommend to people. It is definitely an option, and when a couple of people get their heads together and say, hey, let's make this thing work, then a partnership often comes up. A couple of things that we need to make sure to do is, if you are going to do a partnership, you've got to have a pretty good laid out plan. Not only should you have a contract, but you need to know what everybody is promising to do. Usually a partnership, in most cases I've found with the businesses I've consulted with, one person will put up the money and the other says they'll do the work. And then once the business gets up and running, the person that was going to be the silent money partner wants to get involved. And the person who was doing all the work realizes, hey, wait a minute, I'm not getting my fair split of the money because I didn't put as much in.
Well, that's pretty interesting stuff in terms of partnership, Dennis. But however, I think for our listeners this morning, we'd want to be interested in knowing what are some factors regarding how you choose the type of entity you want to go into. For example, there's sole proprietorship, of course, there's partnership, which you mentioned, corporation, and limited liability company as well. So can you just tell our listeners what would be the three primary factors that would determine which business type you would go into and how one is selected?
Number one is whether or not you have a lot of assets. Corporations, LLCs, and in fact there's different types of corporations. There's a C Corp and an S Corp, which I'll go into in a little bit as we get rolling here as to which have a better tax advantage one way or another. But if you don't have any assets yet when you're first starting up a company, there's not really a need to protect those assets. And that's the whole purpose of a corporation, is to allow your business to take the entire brunt of the responsibilities that would be there financially and legally if something happened. And it would protect your personal assets when you were running your business. So if you're just getting started and you don't have a lot of assets, if you were to start a corporation, then you've got an $800 bill you've got to pay every year to the state, to the Secretary of State. And a lot of people will get going and start a corporation and figure, $800 by the end of the year, I'll be making that, no problem at all. But they might be in the negative and realize that $800 is a problem, and they really don't need it. If they want to get started with just a sole proprietorship, that's usually what I recommend, unless they have a lot of assets that they've invested into the business to get it started. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, it does. What's the most common business structure that's in the economy?
Sole proprietorship is definitely the most common. And with a sole proprietorship, you can either do a fictitious business name or not. And let me explain that to you. A fictitious business name, the word itself means it's not a real name. It's fictitious. So you have to file with the county to say we want to do business as the Red, White, and Blue Sandwich Shop or whatever it is that you want to call your business. You file that with the county. You make sure nobody else has the name first. And then you can operate under that name, open a bank account with that name on it, and you're good to go. However, and it costs, I think, $40, $50 and to file, and then you've got about a $60, $70 bill to run it in the newspaper for a few weeks. And then you can use that name. But what a lot of people will do is skip that step, and if you use your name, it has to be your last name in the name of your business, then it's not a fictitious business name. It's a real name. So you couldn't say Bob's Plumbing, but you could say Smith's Plumbing or Bob Smith's Plumbing. As long as your last name is in there, then you can open up a bank account and run your business separate that way. So I'd say sole proprietorship is the most common and easiest to get started.
And what would be some of the disadvantages to being a sole proprietor?
A disadvantage is once you do have assets that you need to protect, then you want to look at a structure that's going to legally separate your personal assets from your corporate. In fact, a lot of corporations will start separate corporations for the same reason. A good friend of mine in one of the consulting groups I used to be, a peer group that I was in, he ran a company that I forget what they made, but they were kind of a manufacturing company, and they got into delivering their own products to all their customers. So they got a lot of trucks and other vehicles to deliver their products, and then they started realizing and talking to their attorney and say, gosh, if one of these vehicles got in an accident and we were sued, the whole company could be liable. So they created a separate transportation corporation for their vehicles. And that way, if the company was sued because of an accident, it's only the transportation company that was being sued. So that helps to break things up. That's why you would want to do something other than a sole proprietorship. Because if you were running delivery service as a sole proprietorship and you had an accident, then they could come after your house and everything else that you own.
So you may want to try a limited liability of some sort with a partnership. Yeah,
limited liability, or there are a couple different types of corporations. There's a C Corp and an S Corp. There's others too. But a C Corp is set up to be taxed by itself. So if you are running a C Corp, you're an employee of that company, and a lot of people will not be interested in that only because you hit kind of a double taxation there, where you're being taxed by your corporate monies and you're being taxed when you pay yourself. There are some advantages to that, though, in addition, by separating a lot of the responsibilities that the company has versus you. An S Corp allows you to only be single taxed, and yet you still have the legal protection of the corporation.
Well, I think for sole proprietorship, I think one of the driving issues here is that you're your own owner. You make your own decisions and you have complete control. And I think that's really important when you go into any type of business venture and you want to be an entrepreneur. However, you got to understand, though, under those conditions, the trade-off is success.
Right.
So how successful are sole proprietorships? Is it 7 out of 10 businesses make it, and that means only 30% have success, or is it the other way around? So I guess if I was listening to the show this morning, and if I was thinking about going into business, I would like to know what type of business would be more successful relative to another business that might be more prone to failure. So can you give us some insight in success and failure as sole proprietors make decisions on their own?
Yeah, exactly. In regards to entity, there seems to be a higher failure rate of sole proprietorships, and that's only because most people that are setting up a corporation have a better sense of their organization and their goals and their plans for the future, so those will tend to have a little greater success than the sole proprietorship. All businesses, though, whether they're starting it under any entity, everything depends on what they're getting involved in, what their passion is for that particular type of business. The entity doesn't really play a lot into having a greater chance of success if you're a corporation or if you're a limited liability company. So it's basically your choice based on your tax advantages, and that's really something. We can't give out the legal advice or tax advice over the radio here. Neither of us have those specialities. But if you talk to your tax person and find out from them what's going to work best for you, that's going to help you with setting up your entity. There's another entity, though, that I haven't really talked about, and a lot of people may not even really consider it, and that is a nonprofit corporation. So you can do that as a C corporation, and it depends on what business you're involved in. I ran a human tissue bank before, and it was a nonprofit, but it generated a lot of both financial and human resource activities. We had about 20 employees or so, and so we operated just like any other business in a corporation setting. We were tax exempt because we were doing some good for people, but we were still paid as employees. So in that situation, number one is you don't have the double taxation. You can still earn some money with your business being the CEO of your company. In some cases, depending on what the type of business is, it could possibly qualify for a nonprofit status too. So that's something that people should think about when they're wanting to get things started.
Good. Also, additionally, I just want to mention that with sole proprietorship, that the tax earnings are only taxed once. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Correct. So there's no double taxation here that goes on relative to a corporation.
Right, and that's actually a real benefit for someone that's starting out, too, that they're not only are they not having to pay that minimum $800 but to the Secretary of State, but they're also not having to be taxed other than the one time. And they just file a Schedule C with their normal taxes, and that's just the extra, just showing business income from the sole proprietorship. So that makes it nice and easy for someone that's getting started. So I recommend, really, a sole proprietorship for a business unless there's a lot of money going into it at the beginning. If there's a large capital expenditure that you do have a lot of liabilities with, and the assets need to be protected, and you don't want your personal assets involved in it, then you definitely need to start looking into doing an LLC or a C Corp or an S Corp.
Right, to protect those assets, correct?
Exactly.
Well, when the economy takes a downturn, Dennis, does sole proprietorship look more attractive, less attractive? Is there more people wanting to go into business for themselves?
Yeah, in fact, unfortunately, there's people that are, I'm probably not choosing the right word, but it's almost correct by saying they're kind of forced to go into business for themselves. There are people out there that would like to have a regular job and haven't been able to find one. And those that are lucky might still have a little bit of money left in a 401k or something, and they're deciding, hey, I need to create my own job by creating a business. And those folks are kind of behind the eight ball, unfortunately, if they don't have that passion to do it. But there are a lot more people that will start a business under a sole proprietorship when the economy is down, mostly out of necessity. So it's a different type of entrepreneur than the type that myself and friends of mine, we get some crazy idea, and our wife says, yeah, good luck with that, and then we run with it because we're excited about it. So that doesn't always happen in a down economy.
Well, when the wife says good luck, does that mean good luck with a second or third mortgage on a home, or what do you mean by good luck?
Oh, well, I think my wife and I, we've been married about 25 years now, so
Oh, so you're antiques.
We are antiques, absolutely. So I understand every move of the eyebrow when she says good luck. It always means don't touch any personal finances. Figure out how you're going to do it yourself, and good luck.
Well, in terms of source of funding, does sole proprietors use their savings account? Do they take out mortgage? Do they have family members? Just where do the source of funds come from when it comes to sole proprietorships?
Generally speaking, and the most common thing that happens is they will go to family members, and that's usually when we get into a problem with that sole proprietorship possibly turning into a partnership because the person putting the money in wants to have some kind of ownership of the business. When that happens, I like to step in and really get nitty-gritty into the little details of that situation. It might be better to move into some type of a corporation if there's enough money being put into it.
Okay, well, I think it's about time for a break.
Yeah, just a couple minutes. We'll show some. We'll show.
Okay, for all you people out there watching and not listening.
That's right. Can you see us smiling on your radio? So the big thing is, the big choice is, I'll kind of wrap it up for you before we go to break here, is you want to evaluate, number one is, what type of business entity is based on the amount of money that you're putting into it yourself, what kind of assets that you have. So if you're buying equipment and other things that have value and you want to protect those items, then you may want to look towards the corporation side. If you are starting with very little money, then the sole proprietorship is the way to go. And remember that your last name is not fictitious. So you do not have to file a fictitious business name with the county if you're using your last name in your business. That's going to be a big money savings. You know, when somebody's starting a business, and I understand what it's like. You might have been out of a job for a while. Some of you listening out there are saying, gosh, what can I do? And starting a business is definitely an option to figure out how you're going to support your family financially. So as we wind down and get ready to go into these commercial breaks here, I want you to think about what type of assets you have and who all is going to be involved in your business, whether you need to split up some kind of ownership with them or whether they're giving you a loan. If it is a loan based on your personal assets, then you can definitely go ahead and set up just a sole proprietorship and run with that. So I hope that's helped everybody out. Has it helped you out, Dewey?
Most definitely. I think I'm going to go out and start a business today.
Sounds great.
In the early hours after the tsunamis, it was ham radio that was on the air saving lives. When Florida was ripped by hurricanes, the hams were there. In the critical moments after the attack of 9/11, it was the hams who coordinated emergency messages. Can you hear us now? Ham radio works when other communications don't. To learn how you can become a ham radio operator, call the ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio, at 1-800-326-3942.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Saturday Morning Radio Show. I'm Dewey, the Economan.
And I'm Dennis, the Saturday Morning CEO.
And Dennis, it looks like we're going to have a guest speaker that's going to be speaking just in a few minutes. Would you like to introduce him and just give a little bit of background?
Absolutely. Joe, are you on the line here, Joe? Let's see here. Hang on.
Yes, I am.
Hey, Joe. Hey, we're glad to have you on the line. Welcome.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you.
Joe has just written a book about entrepreneurship, and he's a business consultant like myself, and I have a lot of respect for his view of how the economy can change and more jobs can be created through the stimulation of entrepreneurship. So we're going to take the next 10 minutes or so here and get some ideas from you that'll help our listeners.
We're going to squeeze every entrepreneur ounce out of you, Joe, this morning. We want that spirit to manifest itself.
That's a big call for our time, but yeah, let's do what we can.
Okay, well, Dennis is going to ask some questions here and for our listeners this morning, and take it away, Dennis.
So we were just talking before you called in, Joe, about some of the entrepreneurs that we have nowadays with the economy being so down that they're being forced into, in some ways financially, starting a business, and they really don't know what to do, and they may not have been all excited about the idea of running their own business. Do you have any ideas or suggestions for people that are looking at entrepreneurship for the first time because they've been laid off and they're trying to figure out how to support their family now?
Sure. There's two things when deciding what kind of business to go in. The first one is you should be doing something that you're passionate about, something that you're good at and passionate about. So there was a book written in the 70s called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. Of course, chapter 7 of that book was Where's the Money?
Okay.
So it is very important to do something you love, but the second part of just deciding what to do with a business is to be really sensitive to what the marketplace will spend money on, okay? And my favorite example of this is something that a man named Gary Halbert, he had a think tank. This was, many years ago, and he had a bunch of very bright marketing people around the room. He said, if you had a restaurant you were going to open and you had one advantage over all other restaurants, what would you want? And the first person said, location, location, location. He says, okay, that's a good answer. The next person said, I'd want the best food. I'd want like a top quality chef. And he says, that's a good answer. The next person said, I'd want like the cheapest food, like really affordable food. Everybody wants to buy a good bargain. He says, okay, good answer. And the next person says, ambience. I want a real comfortable place for people. Okay. And the last person said, customer service. I want people to be treated well. And he said, those are all good answers, but if I was opening a restaurant and I could have one advantage over all others, I would want a starving crowd. If I had a starving crowd, location doesn't matter because people will go off the beaten path. If I had a starving crowd, it doesn't matter if I'm serving steak or lobster or hot dogs. They'll pay for it because they're starving. And you don't even need a comfortable environment. You don't need all that ambience. People will eat off the street if they're starving. And if people are starving, you could even be a little bit rude. So it's not only is that good for a restaurant, but it's a really good metaphor for whatever business you're starting. What are people starving for so much that they want? If you can combine what you love to do with what people are hungry for that they're willing to pay for, I think that's a pretty good basic formula for success.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. In fact, history has shown in rare occasions, we don't want to use the rarity as a way to get somebody started, but some people have been smart enough to start that feeling or inspire that feeling of starvation. What was I forget the guy's first name, Register, who actually came up with the first cash registers. He had trouble selling them to the businesses because they had to learn how to use the machine. But then what he did was started really putting word out to the consumers that, gosh, you should ask for a receipt. What if you need to bring the item back later? And then as businesses started to have to hand write out receipts because customers started asking for them, they said, "Gosh, can we automate this some way?" And it created the need for the cash register. So there is a way, if somebody is really creative, to try to create that hunger too. So that's a very good point, Joe.
Without the hunger, there's just some really brilliant things that are out there, but people don't know they're hungry for it. So, and that's, another point concerning that is if people are already spending money on something, then it's going to probably be easier if you became an alternative provider.
So what kind of things are people hungry for when the economy's down?
Well, I think that as long, it's about problems. If you hear people whining about some kind of problem in their life, like for example, right now a lot of people are whining that there's not enough jobs. So maybe to be a career counselor or somebody that actually was a job-placing counselor. If you actually had the skill to help them get those jobs, you could probably find a way to monetize that.
Right.
What other kind of problems do people have? Medical things. People always are, got so many ailments today. So if you can help people in any kind of alternative health care, help people be healthier.
That's a good point.
Training.
That's a good point, Joe, because you look at the housing problem right now, and a lot of real estate companies have kind of made a shift to try and help people with their mortgage. So they went where the need was rather than what they know, which was just selling houses. Houses weren't selling, so a lot of them switched into more financial consulting than doing their regular real estate business. That's an example.
And in terms of real estate, everybody needs a place to live. However, not everybody wants to pay top dollar. So if I was in real estate right now, which by the way I'm working on my license, but it's like, why pay top dollar for a home? I'll be your bulldog negotiator. I'll help find you a home that's affordable. Don't pay top dollar. Also, a lot of people can't qualify for a home, so if you can help them with credit repair and things like that. There's so many opportunities. There's so much pain in the world. People respect wisdom, but they obey pain. And when for example, if you get hit by a car, you're laying in the middle of the street, do you ask, if some kid comes up in an ambulance, do you ask for his credentials? Do you ask to see his resume? It's like, just fix me. I'm in pain.
Right,
so
right.
There's a lot of pain in the world, and the more you can be sensitive and understand what people's pain are, people will pay you. That's it.
Tell us a little about your book. What inspired you to write your book, and what's the focus of your book, and where can people get a hold of it?
Well, what inspired me to write the book is I've been helping businesses for the last 20 years grow. I've had people come to me that were one-man operations, and after working with them on improving their marketing, and gone to the point where they've got 50 full-time and 200 part-time employees. So that's like job creation.
Right.
So first of all, I have an experience of when you help people with sales and marketing, the business grows and jobs are created. But I was helping a group of 50 people. I was invited to go talk to this group of people. They all had bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. And the one thing that they had in common is they were all unemployed. And I asked them, how many of you would like to own your own business? And about 60% of the hands were up. And I asked a follow-up question, how many of you are afraid of starting your own business? And 100% of the hands went up.
Mm.
And there was a pain that I identified. We live in America. We live in the United States of America, where anybody could start a business, and yet these people were completely afraid. And this really disturbed me for a little while, and it was the inspiration for the book, because jobs, unemployment is solved by jobs, of course, and jobs come from thriving businesses. But thriving businesses come from inspired entrepreneurs. And if you're not inspired, then you're not going to start a business. And here was a group of 50 people, and I felt like their entrepreneurial spirit was dead. And that's why the book is called Resurrecting America's Entrepreneurial Spirit, is if we can spark the enthusiasm, if you can rediscover that fire within yourself, if you can have the spirit, you can be inspired and excited about starting your business, then you're going to have a much better chance of succeeding. And so I identified that if a business comes from an inspired entrepreneur, then there's things that kill our spirit, and there are things that we need to do to build our spirit. And in the book, there's 21 spirit killers, and I've come up with 21 replacement spirit builders. And so that's the basic concept of the book, is to rekindle your fire and get excited and overcome everything that you need to do to start a business and succeed.
That's great, Joe. Can you tell our listeners how to get in touch with you if they're interested in having you help to boost up their entrepreneurial spirit, or how they can get a hold of your book?
Sure. My website's rapidresultsmarketing.com, and on the website there is a phone number, so I do give a free consultation
that's
for anybody.
great.
I always give a free initial consultation for somebody that is either in business or wants to go in business and they just need some guidance. The book is available. It's published from authorhouse.com. It's available there, or it's also available from amazon.com.
Great. Well, what would be your driving home point for somebody who is sitting there with maybe a tiny bit of cash and sitting there across the bed from their wife right now, listening to our show, thinking, "Gosh, what kind of business should I start? What do I need to do?" What do you think the first thing that they need to do to get their focus straight and get their spirit rekindled into entrepreneurship?
Well, first thing is don't worry about the money part. Believe it or not, it doesn't take a lot of money. The idea that you need a lot of money to start a business. You could start a house cleaning service or a handyman service, but money comes to those who create value for another human being, okay? If you're creating a bunch of value for people, money will come to you. So money comes to those who create value. Now, to tie that in, innovation creates new ignorance. So just because you have a good idea, it doesn't mean that people will automatically understand it. You have to, in order to overcome ignorance, if innovation creates new ignorance, the cure for ignorance is education. And marketing yourself is about getting the word out and educating people. Educate people about how you offer value. And if you get the word out, there's a saying that, I think it's scriptural even, that a good word told often enough will eventually land on good people.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate your motivation towards helping create more jobs, and it's up to us that are sitting here listening to the show today to get businesses started and be the people that help create jobs. So we're going to wind up our interview with you, Joe, and can you give your website again and let people know again in case they just now grabbed a pen thinking, "Oh gosh, I got to write that down." What is that again?
The website is rapidresultsmarketing.com. My name is Joe Nacassio, and I'm going to give you a phone number. It's 562-961-3976.
Great. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it. Thanks for calling in, and we'd love to have you as a guest. We will talk to you later.
All right, thanks. God bless you. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye. We're going to move right now into the 1-Minute Economist, and Dewey has got some excellent, exciting ideas for us about the economy.
Well, today we got some 10 quirky economic indicators that generally gives you some clues in your everyday life to help you determine just what is really going on in the economy. Countdown from number 10, packed theaters. When times get tough, people go to the movies. And we've seen the box office sales soar to a whopping 9%. So it's that, gotta feel good, economy's bad, let's go see a movie, honey.
There you go, a little popcorn
Number 9, more green thumbs, Dennis. There are more households that are growing their own fruits and berries and vegetables and herbs this year, up 19%. So,
hey, my house is up 100%. with our garden and our fruit trees.
I don't think it's fruit trees. I think you need to recount your weeds.
I do have plenty of those. You've been over lately.
You got to watch out for the weeds. But the reason that's an indicator is generally it's fun and relaxing and therapeutic. So that's an indication of the times. Number 8, more free dates. Oh, sorry, not free, but first. Whoops. Yeah, I'd be a little leery of the free.
Yeah.
So misery loves company, huh? Well, evidently Match.com has seen a rise in their business in 7 years. And it has continued to rise and surge since 2004. So especially right after September 11th. So anyway, there's been more first dates. So that's an indication of the times. Number 7, romance novels are hot. Evidently, there's a surge in Harlequin sales. We're up 32% from the year before. So, and they're still on the rise, evidently. Number 6, the drooper eyes. Is that right?
The drooping eyes?
The drooping eyes. Evidently, the cosmetic industry is booming.
Ah, the eyelash.
Yes, so rather than look at the white of your eyes, look at the eyelash of your eyes. Evidently, there is also surgery. Cosmetic surgery is on the rise, too. Number 3, too many gators. The gator industry is rising as well.
Huh?
And number 2 is dry cleaner pickups are down. So evidently, people are doing their own clothes in down economies. And the number 1 quirky economic indicator is more mosquito bites. Evidently, with people leaving their households, especially pools, the water is still there and breeding lots and lots of mosquitoes, especially in Arizona. And residents are no longer cleaning their pools, so the mosquitoes are on the rise. That's it for the quirky economic indicators.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. Enjoy these fun public service announcements.
It's easy to take a day for granted. You and your family are connected by routine, and you stick to it. But what if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if your day's routine is disrupted, and you can't reach your family? Have you planned for that? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Today, learn how at www.ready.gov. Ready.gov. This message brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
Today, all Americans are feeling the pinch of high energy prices. And this winter, the cost of heating your home could account for nearly half of your energy bill. I'm Energy Secretary Sam Bodman with steps you can take to save money and make your home more energy efficient. First, give your home furnace or heat pump a checkup to ensure it's running as efficiently as possible. Proper insulation in attic, ceilings, floors, crawl spaces, and exterior and basement walls can save 30% on your home energy bill. And insulate the heating ducts, even in unheated areas of your house. Finally, installing a programmable thermostat will ensure you don't pay for energy you aren't using. Program the thermostat down to 65 degrees for 8 hours a day to reduce your heating bill by up to 10%. You have the power to make a difference. You can reduce your home energy bills and help our nation reduce its energy use.
For more energy efficiency tips, please visit our website at www.doe.gov or call toll-free 1-877-337-3463. This powerful savings message is provided by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Alliance to Save Energy.
Hey, I'm a busy parent, which is why I rely on computer and video game ratings.
They help me choose which games my kids can play. If it were up to them, they'd get the ones that look the coolest.
But checking the rating symbol on the front tells me which games are okay for which ages.
And on the back, there are descriptions of what's actually in the game. The ratings, they really help me know which games are okay to play.
Parenting can be tough, but the ratings make it easier. Use the video game rating system. It works for me.
It's like FM without the commercials. It's like XM without the quality. It's AM 1620, the Eagle Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Saturday Morning CEO and Economan radio show.
I'm Dewey, the Economan.
And I'm Dennis, the Saturday Morning CEO.
Well, I'm glad we had Joe as a guest discussing the entrepreneurship and spirit of the economy, because this is going to roll us right into the Federal Reserve's action that was taken yesterday, Dennis.
What was that?
That's about increasing more money in the economy to help create jobs. So the Federal Reserve has now entered into the economy, and their number one goal is to bring unemployment down from 8.1% to 7.6% by 2003. That amounts to about 625,000 more jobs that are hopefully being created. So what does this mean for our viewers, Dennis?
Well, I think the viewers want to know what it means to them.
I don't think it's about viewers. I think it's about listeners. You didn't catch that one. Well, here's the situation, folks. The Federal Reserve is going to pull their policy lever, which they call QE3, and basically all this is going to create more money in the economy, thereby lowering interest rates, and hopefully that's going to stimulate the economy. Businesses are going to want to hire more workers, and thereby hiring more workers will bring down the unemployment rate. But here's what most people don't know. How is this going to be done? Well, evidently, the Fed is going to be buying back the mortgage-backed securities at $40 billion per month.
Wow! So these are all the home loans that were kind of going bad, and nobody wanted to buy them, and they're going to buy them.
Absolutely, and banks will be more than happy to get rid of these, such as Freddie Mac and Sallie Mae, and this will pump about $40 billion in the market each month to stimulate the economy. So this is what economists call easy money policy. It'll be open-ended, unlimited, and it'll have the continuous print pump strategy. It'll keep going, and basically the monetary spigot will be open. Think of it this way. Think of your car, Dennis. Are you thinking of your car?
I'm thinking of it.
Well,
I'm thinking it needs to be washed.
That was quick. But by pumping more gas into your car, Dennis, your car moves and goes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So by pumping more money into the economy's gas tank, the stock market and the 401k plans will take off and grow and be worth more. So it's kind of like fertilizer. You spread enough around, it begins to grow. Things begin to grow.
They're putting money. Where's the actual money going to? That, what was it, $40 billion a month?
$40 billion. Let's put it this way. Let's say that you're Dennis's bank,
okay,
and you're sitting on about $40 billion of mortgage securities.
Right, which I am, of course. In
Yes,
my
you
bank.
are.
Yes.
And you can't lend those out. It's uncertainty about whether or not people are going to be paying on those. So the Fed comes along and says, "Hey, how'd you like to sell those?" And then you say, "Okay, fine. What will you give me for them?" Well, how about $40 billion? At that point, the Fed buys those securities in exchange for $40 billion cash. So now your Dennis bank now has $40 billion it didn't have before. The Fed now has an asset of $40 billion. And when it decides to create money out of thin air, just like the $40 billion, then that becomes a liability for the Fed.
Right.
So that would be the accounting entry. The asset would be the mortgage-backed security, and the liability would be the $40 billion it just created out of thin air.
So the $40 billion goes to the bank. Let's trace the money and follow it and see how it is going to help our listeners. The money goes to the bank. Now, if I've got Dennis's bank and I'm deciding to sell these mortgages, is there any rules? Are you aware if there are any rules about whether or not I could actually charge a little extra than I would to somebody else if the government's going to buy it? Are there any controls in that? Do you know?
Well, yeah, there's controls. It's
Okay.
limited. Basically, what the Fed is trying to do is trying to create jobs, expand the credit and money markets.
Okay, so we'll follow the money. Money goes to the bank. The bank gets money for a lot of these loans, and then how does it get to? How does that benefit the individuals that are trying to make their house payments and all that kind of stuff right now.
Here's the benefit. The $40 billion increases the money supply, thereby lowering interest rates.
Okay.
And interest rates, they want to keep the Fed wants to keep interest rates relatively close to zero over the next 3 years through 2015. When interest rates are low, Dennis, Americans are inclined to buy more homes and interest rate sensitive goods, such as rather than wash your car, why don't you go out and buy a new car?
Yeah, I need to, absolutely. And I got this bank with $40 billion. I might as well.
They're going to not be setting on that. They're going to be loaning it out to the public.
I see. Well, using my own money makes me understand how that might work.
And also the 401ks, you'll be feeling a little bit richer, and the stock market will also be affected. As you know, the stock market rose about 206 points after this announcement by the Federal Reserve yesterday. So, as you know, Dennis, there's no such thing as a free lunch. If there is an upside, there has to be a downside. So here's the downside. Low interest rates means little or no growth for savings, especially for elderly.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good. So those interest rates will not go up, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Accounts.
So
okay.
savings, rate of return on savings will remain flat.
Gotcha.
Another downside. Can you say inflation?
Oh, I can say it all right, but I don't like to say it on the air.
Well, yes, we want to keep your inflation down to a minimum. But inflation may rise. However, the Fed anticipates no increased inflation over the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So if there's not going to be inflation, isn't that going to... Because the Federal Reserve just creates the money out of thin air. Doesn't that usually come back as inflation?
Yes, it does. But if demand is so weak, and if the job market is so weak, and if employment is so high, then there's not much demand for goods and services.
Oh, okay.
Which pulls up the prices. So here's the hitch. Here's the big picture. The bottom line is the Fed wants jobs. More spending means that businesses can hire more workers. The cost of capital and price assets will begin to fall, thereby igniting the economy, kind of putting a fire underneath the economy to get going. And hopefully this will incentivize businesses to want to loan money, and also it'll incentivize consumers to feel, hey, I feel better about the economy. Credit market will expand. I think I'll go out and buy a car, buy a house, and if spending starts going up, then the economy begins to improve. So the Fed's goal, by the way, the Fed has a mandate about full employment. One of its mandates is to keep a fully employed economy with stable prices. So their targeted unemployment rate is to bring it down from 8.1% to 7.6% by 2003. And the way they're doing that is using QE3. But a question that our listeners might want to be asking is, how is this different from the other two monetary stimuluses that has happened?
Right, because those I don't think we felt very much.
No. Well, one of the aspects is treasuries. Treasuries is like printing press money. If you were the treasurer, and if you say, hey, I have a U.S. savings bond or an IOU I want to sell, the Fed comes along and says, I'll buy it. That's kind of like monetizing the debt. It's like printing press money. The U.S. Treasury now has billions of dollars and had before. What does it give up to get those dollars? Basically a treasury bill. So that's one stimulus. Also, if you remember, the Fed bailed out gave Treasury the money and the banks to, I think it's the total amount's about $1.2 trillion. But here, that is a stock of money. That's not a flow.
Okay.
It's like this. If you got a tax return next year, it's $1,000, but that's it. That's just a point in time. Wouldn't it be nice to get $1,000 every month?
Oh, I see. So this is going to create a monthly steady flow of money going into the banks.
Yes, and it's open-ended. It's continuous for the next 2 years. Okay. So interest rates will stay incredibly close to zero. It'll be an incentive for consumers to want to invest, buy, and businesses will see on their side, too, investment and buy at low interest rates.
Well, from a business standpoint, too, I'm thinking the business owner trying to get a loan to expand or get into a new marketplace. In this economy, a lot of businesses are starting to realize, hey, wait a minute, we need to bring on this other product. That would be a big help to us. We need to hire some more people to do it. And if the interest rates are low enough on the loan side for their business, then that might help them to expand and do the hiring, because obviously just because an interest rate is low on a home isn't enough incentive to get somebody to buy it because they have to have a job.
Well, that's right, and that's the point of what the Fed's trying to do. They're trying to create money, thereby creating jobs, and they're not really so worried about the flat savings rates. They're targeting interest rates, keeping interest rates low, hopefully to ignite the consumer, household market, and business markets. But the timing of the policy is also interesting. As you probably heard in the news, and some of our listeners, is there's a so-called fiscal cliff that's coming in 2013. And what is the fiscal cliff?
What is the fiscal cliff? It sounds like a place that we're going to fall off of.
Yes, we are. You are. But the fiscal cliff includes the expiration of the Bush-era tax cuts and the 2 percentage point reduction in the payroll tax, plus the start of automatic spending cuts. So, on the fiscal side of the house, it looks like it's going to be dampening. So the Fed has anticipated this, so they're basically saying, hey, we got liquidity ready, we'll keep interest rates low in the event that this fiscal cliff becomes reality. However, there is another stronger impact that could happen here, according to one economist at Raymond James. He said there's 3 issues will have a stronger impact on hiring and business spending. The fiscal cliff, which we've talked about, the bank crisis in Europe, and the global economy at large, including how China will address the slowdown. So it appears that the Fed has a double-edged sword. They want to keep interest rates low. They want to see business investment go up. They want to see consumer spending go up. At the same time, the Treasury and Congress may decide to repeal the Bush-era tax cuts and the 2 percentage reduction in payroll tax and have automatic spending cuts, which would have a dampening effect. That's the domestic, and then there's the international effect. We don't know how China's economy is going to be doing or how Europe is going to be doing. So this is really an economic tightrope.
Is this has this been done in other countries? What our Fed is trying to do, or are we the first ones to try it?
No, this has been done throughout history. However, it's a unique historical condition in which this is the Fed's third attempt to try to get the domestic economy going. We do have fiscal expansionary policy through tax cuts and increased government spending, but the uniqueness of it is that Europe and global economies are in trouble as well. So this may ignite inflation down the road. And for our listeners, you have to understand that there's a monetary lag about 6 to 8 months. So the Fed is probably going to be criticized, well, your policy's not working, the economy's not improving. It will take probably a good 8 to 12 months before we see the effects of this money in the economy working. As you know, there's uncertainty, you have an uninviting economy, there's an election, and until there is more or there's better expectations, and until there's certainty in the markets, there's not going to be a lot of performance. My concern is that once the monetary policy takes hold down the road, it could spell inflation.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because that's usually where that money has to come back, is in inflation. If they don't see a growth right now, it might just be kind of impacted a little bit and holding back until later, then it's going to come back. You think that's the way it might work?
Well, even if it does take off, well, the Fed has the ability to put the brakes on. If it can get the car moving, it can surely stop the car. So one of its mandates is price stability. So if there is inflation, the Fed then will simply ease up on the brakes. It won't do the print and pump mode. It will stop or trim back the $40 billion per month that it's trying to pour into the economy. It'll just take it back out. What's nice about open market operations, which is the buying and selling of U.S. securities by the Fed, is it's flexible, it happens daily, and if you made an error, whoops, it's easily irreversible.
I see. So I hope this really helps. Let's think about our listeners. If you're out there right now and you're trying to start a business or trying to grow a business, how does this affect you? Well, if you're thinking of getting a loan right now, should they wait a little bit because maybe rates will go down? Or how do you think this would affect the decision of a business person right now?
Well, right now, to get a small business loan and both on the consumer business side, the cost of capital is relatively low. It's still at historical low levels.
Do you think that by infusing this money into the system that it would go down more, or that's what I'm trying to say?
Well, here's the thing from a business perspective. Businesses are going to only invest if they anticipate growth or demand, and the growth and demand comes from jobs. If there's no jobs, there's no money flowing into businesses. So you have to create the jobs first, and then businesses then will see the revenue pour in. So again, it comes down to expectations, not naive optimism.
Right. And so we've got to see what happens with the election and with any other tax changes that are going to happen.
So businesses see a rosy economy, their high expectations, they see opportunity, then yes, they're going to pour in the investment. But on the other hand, if there's poor expectations, there's uncertainty, they are going to be reluctant to take on risks, especially unnecessary risks, because the payoff's not there. The payoff is only going to be there if jobs are created and people have money to spend. It's that simple.
So you think that we'll start to see the result of this, how maybe 6 months or a year down the road? We maybe start to see some benefit from what they're trying to do by infusing the money into the banks right now?
Yeah, probably the second quarter of 2013, probably around springtime next year. We'll see if there's any effect. But of course, the stock market loved it. I mean, it jumped 200 points.
Right.
Because the 401ks are tied into the stock market. You have price assets, the internet stocks, you have your homes, and that's good news. The moment interest rates go up, it's going to kill any recovery in the housing market. You do understand that, don't you, Dennis?
I do.
So right now, we want to keep interest rates low, keep the real estate market going, and also consumers are benefiting from it, from buying cars, appliances, or any other big-ticket items that are interest rate sensitive.
Yeah, we just redid our loan and went from 5% to 2%.
There you go. That's a savings, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that's we get more of it, and that's going to stimulate the economy. So, well, we appreciate you taking the time to teach us a little bit about the economy, because even me, I'm kind of a neophyte with some of the terms and all that in the economy. So we're going to move on into our crazy ideas, and then we're going to wind up our show today. So thank you very much.
Crazy ideas? Is that crazy business ideas?
That
what
probably
crazy ideas are we talking about here?
Well, what kind of show are we running? We better keep them business ideas.
Well, it sounds like the crazies.
So here's a couple of great ideas for you here. Now, some of these you think, how do you make money doing this? A lot of these are on the internet. But remember that if you can come up with something that creates a lot of visitors, if it's really attractive, exciting or fun or crazy, then if you get enough traffic coming to your website, you can sell advertising. So a lot of these places you think, well, how do you make money with that? That's how you do it, is you advertise or pay for get advertisers to pay. So here's one. It's called findagrave.com. So visiting famous people is a creepy hobby, and people do like to visit people who've passed away. In fact, I ran the human tissue bank before, so I was kind of close to that industry. And there are some pretty neat cemeteries with some famous folks in even downtown L.A. There's one that's nestled in between a bunch of big buildings in there. Well, you go to this website, and you can find where people have been buried.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that people have a fascination with cemeteries and it could be a boost for tourism?
Absolutely. You got it. It is not a dying industry.
Well, it sounds like the industry could be resurrected.
That's thinking outside the box there, my friend. So let's see what else we can dig up over here. We've got another one is the shoppingcartabuse.com. And a crazy person started out with this idea that there's plenty of people that are abusing shopping carts. So they've started this as a cause, and they want people to support the idea that we should not abuse shopping carts. And even some celebrities are starting to endorse this campaign. How's that?
That's absolutely crazy. Why would you want to save the cart?
Have you ever abused a cart?
No, but I've returned a cart, and if I return it, I should get reimbursed, right?
Yeah, I can tell there are some that have been abused because they're just kind of limping along with their little wheel. Have you ever gotten one of those carts? It's probably got a sad history.
Well, interest rates are low now, so those businesses should invest in some wheels and make the cart go.
Let's recycle those carts.
No, seriously, where's the money in repairing carts? Are these the plastic carts, steel carts?
Yeah, the big steel carts. And the money for shopping cartabuse.com would come from people advertising on their site and getting word out about it. So it's just another cause to draw people in. But we're going to sign off now. It is time for us to go home and live life. And it's time for you to be thinking about starting your business.
Hey, thank you for listening this morning. I'm Dewey, the Economan.
And I'm Dennis, the Saturday Morning CEO.
You guys have a great weekend.
Goodbye.
Broadcasting almost across the valley. AM 1620, the Eagle Radio Network.